In this video, we're going to look at the last two minerals in this section, zinc and then fluoride. And although these are trace minerals and arguably not as important, I don't want to say that, but they have fewer common functions. They are still important in some respects, and we'll look at those individually. So let's start with zinc. So zinc, definitely a trace mineral. Um, Chemically, you actually, though you may not hear of zinc much, you're aware of copper and brass, and so zinc and copper actually make up brass, in case you didn't know that. So zinc does actually play various different roles in some cellular functions, quite a few roles, in particular in regards to DNA transcription and replication. And in fact, that's part of the reason why we're talking about zinc, although for a little different reason you may think. Though it plays, kind of a very different roles. It's this DNA part that we're actually going to focus on. And it's the reason actually why zinc is kind of popular as a supplement. We'll get to that in a minute. So zinc generally is found in some fish, oysters in particular, quite high in oysters, some meats, some nuts, almonds, things like that that grow out of the ground. So a lot of protein, higher protein-based, plant-based sources. Now, the reason we're talking about zinc, though, isn't necessarily anything I've just mentioned. In humans, one of the types of cells that has high amounts of zinc are sperm cells. And so, and you can kind of put that together with DNA and it sort of makes sense. And so, some of the theory, if you will, is that if you were to increase zinc supplementation, increase zinc intake, you would then increase zinc in sperm cells, sperm cell count, and that would increase fertility. And that is kind of one of the reasons why zinc has some amount of popularity to it. Now, there's not great evidence that says, if you want to improve sperm count or fertility, take zinc. There are numerous other factors that are far more important roles in that. But it is the reason we're talking about zinc. It is one of the reasons that you will see it dietarily in the supplement world. Having said that, generally, there aren't usually deficiencies of zinc, not commonly. The DRI for this is really not terribly high, and we do consume it in enough foods regularly where we don't see deficiencies, and even when we do, there really aren't a lot of health complications. Certainly not like what we see with calcium or iron. So that's zinc. Again, much to know its main function, some foods it's found in, and that it's a trace mineral, not unimportant, but fewer functions, I think, than some of the other minerals that we have focused on. Now, the last one we're going to look at is fluoride. Now, fluoride, you've actually probably heard of before, not in relation to food, but in relation to toothpaste, right? So fluoride, which is actually just the anion of fluorine, fluoride is a common constituent in toothpaste and other products that we use for dental care. Well, fluoride actually makes up a key part of tooth enamel. In fact, there is very, very, very good evidence that it reduces dental caries or dental cavities. So much so, we know that populations that have deficiencies of fluoride actually have increases in dental caries. So much so that it has been commonplace for a number of decades to add fluoride to water sources in some communities. We call it fluorinated water. And the reason being is that if you want to reduce dental caries, which is a real health issue, an easy way to do that is put it in the water supply. We all consume water to some degree, and you wouldn't have to add it to foods. So historically, that's been the case. Now, more recently, there has been pushback in some communities of that practice. And we won't get into the health parts of that, the pros and cons. I do think it's fair to say there are a lot of positives to fluorinated water. One of the issues we're now seeing, I'd say in the last 20, 30 years, is because we've largely moved away from drinking tap water and drinking more bottled water. Bottled water generally doesn't have fluoride in a lot of cases. And so we are starting to see some of these issues reappear that we thought we had tackled in the 40s and the 50s. Fluoride is it's a trace element, right? It's not one we're going to talk about foods it's found in, but it does play one really important role as far as dental caries go. And so it's why it's in toothpaste. It's not uncommon for this to be provided by um, uh, dentists to patients periodically to improve dental enamel, to reduce dental issues, particularly in younger people. And so, definitely one you want to know. Obviously, not one that we would dietary supplement for, but one that does play a key role physiologically. Hope that helps, and that finishes up our look at minerals in this course.